Packet tracer is a tool that allows us to simulate real networks. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Packet Tracer to build a network topology and some basic commands which we can use to configure routers and switches. You can download the Packet Tracer from your Cisco Net Academy account. After log into Net Academy, you go to Resources, then Packet Tracer Resources. From there, you can go to Packet Tracer download page to select the Packet Tracer version you need. Currently, the Packet Tracer version is version 8. After the download, the installation is very simple. You can double-click the file you downloaded, then accept the license agreement, select the folder for the installation, then you can simply click Next to finish the installation. After the installation, you can start the Packet Tracer. Packet Tracer has two modes, logical mode, physical mode. When you start Packet Tracer, you will be in logical mode. So we are going to use a logical mode to build a simple topology and show you some basic configuration. At the bottom of the Packet Tracer screen, you can see there are different devices we can choose to build our network. We have the network devices, we have the end devices, and also the connections we can choose from. I'm going to go to the network devices category, select a router. At the moment, there are different model of the router we can choose from. I will choose 1941, drag it to my workplace. Then I can choose a switch, so I go to the switch category. Again, there are different models switches we can choose from. I will use a 2960 switch, drag it to my workplace. Then I'm going to choose a PC. So if we go to the end device, you can see there are PC servers. The server has a different kind of services enabled by default, and also other end device. So I'm going to pick up a PC. Then we need to select the connection. There are different cable we can choose from. So if I move the cursor and on the icon, you can see and the name for the cable, we have copper straight-through cable and copper crossover cable and other type of cable. So I'm going to choose a straight-through cable to connect my router to switch, then switch to PC. If I leave the cursor on top of my router, you can see the router has a 2 gigabit interface, G00 and G01. I'm going to click the router and select the G00 for my connection. Connect to switch, and the switch interface I'm going to use F01. Then I select another cable, and from my switch F02 to PC F0. If I want to see which interface I can connect to, and you can see on my topology, it shows this is interface G00, F01, F02, and F0 for the PC. If you couldn't see the interface label, you go to Options and you go to Preference. From here, you take all the show port labels in the logical workplace. So if I untick this one, you can see the label name is disappeared from my workplace. So I click over the show the port label, then I can see the label name. If I click my device, like this one, I click the switch, and I can see my device is come with a physical tag and a config tag CLI attribute. If you couldn't see the physical type, again, you can go to Option, go to Preference, then go to the Show and Hide. From here, you want to see which tab will be displayed when you click your network device. So I untick the hide all device config and hide the physical type. When I untick it, that is why when I click the device, I can see there's a 4 types there. If you couldn't see any of them, again, go to the options, go to preference, and go to the show and hide. Then you select which tab you want be displayed. So I click my router and I want to show you the front of the switch. So I zoom in. You can see this is the front of the switch. This is the back of the switch. This switch has a 24 interface, 24 fast interface, fast internet, and a 2 gigabits Ethernet. And there's a console port. If we use real equipment, then we need to have our PC to connect to the console port to start the configuration. But because we use a packet tracer, we can go to the command line interface straight away. On the left hand of the switch, you can see there's a LED light that will show you the status of the switch. Now we are going to go to the CLI and to start to configure our switch. So when you come to the switch configuration mode, switch CLI, you can see the switch has a name as a switch. This is by default. So if I go to the router, same thing. If I go to the CLI, it asks me, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? We will say no, because we want to have more the control of our network device. So the router by default has a name as a router, and the switch by default has a name as a switch. Then we can see the greater sign. This tells us we are in user mode. User mode is also known as a view mode. So we can use couple commands, but not we can use couple command to verify the switch configuration, but we are not allowed to change the switch configuration. So from here, if I give the show and I want to see what show command I can use, I can put the question mark. That will show me all the commands available under the user mode when we use the show command. So this is the show command and followed by the keywords, and we can choose from. Like from here, I can use a show interface. I can tap the full command, use the interface, but I also can use a type key on your keyboard if you use a type key, and the iOS can help you to finish the rest of the command if that command can be recognized by the iOS. So that will show me the interface, like we have fast internet F01, fast internet F02, and etc. So at the bottom, we can see more. It means this output has more pages to be shown up. More pages can be displayed. So you just use the space bar to move to the next page. If you got enough information, you don't need any more. You can use the Q on your keyboard to get out from the show command. So when we are in user mode, we only have very limited capability to set up our device. So from here, we can use the enable to go to the privilege mode. In the privilege mode, we have more commands we can choose from. So if I put a question mark to see all the commands available in the privilege mode. From privilege mode, we can go to global configuration mode by use config T, so config terminal, and then you can see the prompt keep changing. So now we are in global configuration mode. From here, if you change the device configuration, that is going to affect the device as a whole. So for example, I'm going to change the host name of my switch because I don't want the device has a default name as a switch. To change device host name, we do host name and I'll name it as a switch 1. Then you can see the prompt change to reflect the new host name. Now we are in global configuration mode. From there, we also can go to the special configuration mode. Say, for example, I want to configure the interface. From here, I can do the interface F01 to change it to the interface configuration mode. Then whatever I did in this interface configuration mode only affect interface F01. It's not going to affect interface F02, F03, and other interface. So the configuration we did in this mode only affect this interface. So I'm not going to do any configuration for this interface, and I want to show you the current configuration of the switch. So if I go to the privilege mode, I can use the show run, because after the switch be loaded up, it will try to looking for the configuration file, which is known as a startup configuration file. But this device has no configuration at all, so there's no startup configuration file. The device is going to load a running configuration file, so we can use a show run to check the running configuration file. From running configuration file, you can see the host name is changed to S1. So whatever we change, and for this device configuration, is going to go to the running configuration file. If you are happy about the running configuration file, you can save the running configuration file to start up configuration file, and the running configuration file is in RAM. That means when you power off the device, you are going to lose your configuration. But when we do copy run, means we copy the running configuration file. So you can see I tap run, and I use the tab key to finish the whole command. I copy the running configuration file to the startup configuration file to save it. Then the startup configuration file is in NVRAM. Next time, when you reload your device, the configuration will still be there. So this one, I show you how to, so far I show you how to move between different mode, and then how to save your configuration. And as I type the commands, you already found out the iOS can actually provide us some kind of help. Say, if I don't remember which command available in the mode, I can use a question mark, and that will show me all the command available. If I know I want to use the show command, but I can't remember what other option I have, so again, I can use a question mark that will display all the options available for the show command. If I want to configure the device, say for example, if I want to set up the time for the device, and I need to configure with a clock set, but I know to change the time for the device is to use a clock, but what other option I have, I can give the question mark, I use a clock set, and then what other things the command is expect, so I can use question mark again, so we can get help from by using the question mark. So at the moment is hour, so that is a 2020, say for example. So it tell me, now I tap the hours, minutes, and the second, and the receive message is it tell me this is an incomplete command. Means the command is expect to have other keywords or argument. So I can use the up and down arrow. If you look at your keyboard, you use up and down arrow to bring the previous command back. Then I can give another question mark to see what the command is expect. So I need provide the date and the month. So at the moment, today is the 19th, that is July 2021. So now the device accepts my command and configures the time for the switch. We can use the show clock to verify the time I just be configured. So the show clock, and I can check the time be configured. So far you can see we didn't provide any kind of a password, and we just connect our device. We can start to do the configuration. Always this is not secure. So how we can configure the password for our switch? We can go to the global configuration mode. Then we configure with the LAN console 0. So the console line is used for the initial setup. So now I want to configure password for the LAN console. Say for example, I'm going to use a password Cisco and configure with a login. And now I use the exit to come out from the LAN configuration mode. So this is considered as a special configuration mode. We go to the LAN console configuration mode. I use exit to come out from the LAN console configuration mode and go back to the global configuration mode. Another exit. Now I'm in the privilege mode. I tap another exit. Now you can see I'm in the user mode, but this time I'm in the console. I try to access to the console, but this time when I give enter and it asks me to provide the password. So for someone connect to your device and need to provide the right password to get access to the configuration. So I provide the password the Cisco. Now I go back to the user mode. So from user mode, because it has a very limited configuration and we only can use it to view the network configuration. So we need to go to the privilege mode by use enable. Then from enable or privilege mode, we can go to global configuration mode. How we can secure the privilege mode? We can configure another level of security by set up the password for the privilege mode. I do enable, so I can use enable password. So I set up the password as a Cisco. Now I want to use a show running check the running configuration file. I use the show running configuration file. We can see the enable password is a Cisco. If I use the tab key to move to the end of the configuration file, I set up the password for LAN console. So the password is in clear text, means anyone can read the password. And what we can do, we can encrypt the password, and I'm going to use the service password encryption to encrypt the clear text password. So now go back to use the show run again. You can see the enable password, the password is encrypted. This is a type 7 encryption. It's considered as a weak encryption method. It's easy to crack. Now, how I can configure more secure password when I enable password for the privilege mode, instead to use enable password, I use enable secret. So if I give a Cisco this time, Cisco 123, now I want to go back to check my running configuration file. You can see when I use enable secret, the password is encrypted by use IMD file. So see, this is type 5 encryption. It's considered more secure than type 7. So the service password encryption command is used to encrypt clear text password by use type 7 encryption method. When we use a secret, it's going to create more secure password. So there are two ways to access to the network device for configuration, and we can use a console. So you connect to the console port for the configuration. or we can remote access to our device to view the device configuration or change the configuration. So how we can protect remote access? So again, we go to global configuration mode. We go to the LAN VTY. You can set up VTY04. This is for remote connection. And you configure with a password. So this one is set up as a Cisco as well. I can tap login, but this is optional. Login for VTY LAN is by default. So even you didn't configure with a login command, when someone try to remote access to your device by using Telnet or SSH, they will be required to provide the password. So when I finish my configuration, I can use exit to come out from the LAN VTY configuration mode, or I can just tap N to go to the privilege mode straight away. So to come out from your mode, you can use exit or you can use N to go to the privilege mode straight away. Now verify your configuration by using show run again. This time we can see the VTY LAN, so LAN VTY, and already 04 because I only configure for the first 5 LANs. It's already have password and the password is encrypted. Even we configure the password after we set up the service password encryption. So the service password encryption is going to encrypt all clear text password. So even we provide the password after that command, the password will still be encrypted. Now we set up the password for the remote mode for the VTY LAN, and the device also need to have IP address configured for remote access. How to configure IP address for a switch? So switch is considered as a layer 2 device. The switch can look at the MAC address to decide how to forward traffic. Now, if we want to configure IP address for a switch, we need to configure the IP address on the management interface on switch virtual interface. So I'm going to do interface VLAN 1 and give IP address 192.168.1.1. Configure with a network subnet mask .0, give a no shot. So now if we look at the show IP interface brief, this command allows us to verify all the interface status for our network device. You can see the fast internet F01 is in down mode because it's connected to the router. The router interface by default is in shutdown mode. And the interface F02 because it's connected to the PC, so it's in up and up state. Only when your device is in up and up state, the device is ready to forward traffic. Now, we also configure IP address for VLAN 1. The VLAN 1 is in up and up state. Now, I'm going to configure IP address for the PC, then verify the connectivity between the PC and the switch. So I go to PC and go to desktop, go to IP configuration, and I'm going to use the static configuration. So I can give IP address 192.168.1.10 and give a subnet mask and can configure with the default gateway. So say for example, I just put the default gateway as .1.1. And this is IP configuration for your desktop for the PC. Then we can go to the CLI of the PC by click the command prompt. From here, I can ping 192.168.1 to verify the connectivity between PC and the switch. So my PC, I already set up IP address with .1.10. The switch I configure with IP address .1.1. So now the PC can ping the switch. I got a reply. If I send another ping, and I'll get reply as well. So this is just some basic configuration for the switch, and for the router configuration, we can do the same. If I click the router and I look at the physical layout of the router, so the router has a switch. We can power it on and power it off. At the moment, it's powered on. There is a 2 gigabits interface available on the router. This is a console port. So when you use a PC to configure your device, you need to have cable to connect to the console port. So if I go to the CLI, we give enter. So same thing, we are in the user mode. From user mode, we can use enable, and we go to the privilege mode. Then configure T, go to global configuration mode. Then we can configure with the host name. See, for example, I want to configure device with a host name, but I type something wrong. And you can see the iOS tell us this is an invalid input because iOS couldn't interpret the void and don't know which command we want to configure. So we configure with a host name. So the command include the command keywords and can have some options or arguments. So we are going to configure this router's name as router 1. So router 1 here is considered as an argument. That is something you can change. So now for router 1 is in the privilege mode. So from here, just like what we did for the switch, we can start to change the configuration for the router. So what's happened with? So this video show you how to where you can download the packet tracer and how to use the packet tracer to set up a simple topology and some basic configuration. In the following videos, I will introduce you more network configuration using packet tracer. Thank you for watching.